Hello and welcome back to Walk the Cinema podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the movie that's still in theaters, the newest Nicolas Cage film, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
So yeah.
Yeah, this is something you suffer from, the unbearable weight of massive talent. I wouldn't know what it feels like.
I definitely do not suffer from that, but...
You're just being humble. You, of course...
I appreciate you saying
have
that.
massive talent, but maybe you can carry the weight. I don't know, maybe you're stronger than Nicolas Cage. And speaking of Nicolas Cage, next week, another Nicolas Cage film. Mm-hmm. And we also covered adaptation for Nico Watches Films, or Nico Watches Movies, sorry. And you can check that out now. It's out. So if you love us talking about Nicolas Cage, there you go.
Yeah, Nico is a friend of the show.
Yeah.
Makes great videos.
He does. So. And yeah, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This was hilarious. And it was exactly what we needed to decompress after a month of Fellini.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It was really refreshing.
It was.
But I mean, we'd have seen some really great movies in the theaters as of late. Mm-hmm. Before this, the week before we watched this one, we saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was great.
Yeah, number 1 on Letterboxd right now.
Yeah, and then then we saw this one, and they're both really funny, but funny for different reasons.
Yeah, this is poking fun at itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I was worried a little bit that would be over-reliant on...
meme status.
Yeah, and also just being like, oh, Nicolas Cage was in this movie and this movie. And they do that, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reference comedy, but it's not overwhelming. There's also, like, an arc that happens.
Yeah.
And besides Nicolas Cage, there's Pedro Pascal, and he's so good in this, too.
Yeah.
Like, they're both really good.
I honestly think that Pedro Pascal might be the best thing about this movie.
You shut up now.
I just think he has... like such a good face for the role of like the kind of hapless super fan of Nick Cage, and he gives off that energy that's just like, please love me, you know, which I really enjoyed.
He was really funny in scenes that Nicolas Cage wasn't even on screen. Mm-hmm. He carried those scenes. But when they're together, they were playing really well off of each other.
Yeah.
And it was just great. Like, it's really a good comedy to watch in theaters.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think that I was a little worried at the beginning. Like, it does kind of start a little bit slow. They're trying to set up the premise of it, you know? Mm-hmm. Where they're like, here is Nicolas Cage, you know him. Yeah. He's playing himself, but we're setting up this kind of fictionalized universe where he has a daughter and an ex-wife, that he only has one ex-wife.
Right.
And only one kid who is a daughter.
Yeah.
So it does kind of start off like that, and he's auditioning for a role that is going to be the role of a lifetime.
Right, which he doesn't get.
Yeah.
Because he kind of flunks it. I think he wants it too bad, and he's too,
It comes off desperate.
Yeah, it comes off really desperate. Mm-hmm. And then that's when we see a scene that was not in the trailers. So if you haven't seen it, we're going to spoil it from now on. And we see him talking to an older Nick Cage version.
Like a younger Nick Cage, but younger from an older Cage, movie.
With like long hair.
Yeah. And he's got the leather jacket and the leather getup just in general.
So we see Nick Cage talking to himself, like the voices in his head that, of course, are him.
Yeah.
Because who else would be in the head of Nick Cage if not Nick Cage?
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting that, because it added a new element to the movie that it didn't show in the trailers. And trailers are always bad at like kind of depicting what is going to happen.
I think this trailer is the best trailer, or like the best preview in the theaters that I've seen in years.
Yeah, but I'm saying just in general.
Right.
Like, trailers are usually not that representative. They're either spoil the entire movie or they suck. They suck. So.
And they send the wrong message, like Bohemian Rhapsody over the trailer for Suicide Squad. People thought it'd be a whole different mood than what it turned out to be.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of that one that I really dislike.
Serrano?
Well, yeah, but that one's just for different reasons.
That one just sucks.
Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah, the trailer was actually really good. It was the first time in, like, ever that I watched the trailer and I didn't hate it. Because, like, there's movies I love and the trailers I just hate.
Yeah.
But this one really worked and really kept me... Like, I was going to watch it anyways, obviously, just because of the premise.
I will say that, like, for the general audience, that just the general people of the world, I can see why this movie might be hard to watch or, like, unenjoyable to watch if they really dislike Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
You know? Where they think he's a bad actor. They think
a lot of people think that. Which is... The people that think that don't watch his movies. Like, yeah, he's a bad actor in a lot of movies, right? But that's not why these people think he's a bad actor. They think that because it's just engraved in the pop culture right now. That certain actors are jokes, like Adam Sandler, Nicolas Cage.
Well, yeah. I'll give you an example. Like, my dad and my stepmom both really dislike... They don't really dislike... It's not a hatred. They don't think about him every day and, like, just say, dang that Nicolas Cage. But if it comes up in conversation, they're like, he's a bad actor. And I think it's because, you know, when I was younger, we watched a lot of Nicolas Cage movies that were the kid-friendly type. So it was, like, The National Treasures and then... The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which may be one of his, arguably one of his worst performances.
100%.
So I think that's the kind of Nick Cage that they think of, and it's the Nick Cage that I thought of for a long time, you know, before I branched out into a lot of things. But
right. Because now you have Nick Cage in Pig, Nick Cage in Adaptation, Nick Cage in Mandy. Yeah. It's just, he kills it in a lot of roles. Like, he really does.
Yeah.
So it's on the directors a lot of times, I feel. Because they want a star, and Nick Cage is a star that needs money, so he'll do the movie. But if you write a script that works for Nick Cage, like this specific one, you can pull Nick Cage off very well, and he will give you everything.
Yeah, I really liked how meta this movie was.
Right.
Because it's kind of like crossing, or it's blurring the lines between, like, reality and non-reality. Because I feel like at some points it does kind of reflect what the actual actor Nick Cage might be feeling. Because he's criticized a lot for taking so many movie roles.
Yeah.
And, you know...
And he says that.
He says that in the movie where it's
he says, if I take too many movies, it's, you don't give people time to miss you, you're just taking bad projects. And then if I don't take movies, that's my job.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to make money and work and pay for my family's stuff?
Yeah, and pay the bills and stuff. He's like, if I was working a regular job, you know, just taking all the work that I can would be normal.
Yeah.
You're not criticizing those people. So I feel like that might be something that
life in the arts is difficult.
Yeah.
For that, like, balance of work. Because you want to do stuff that's great, but you also need money. So how do you balance it?
Yeah.
He does it. He just does everything. But I think he will slow down from now on and take better projects, because between all the crap he's been doing, which is a lot, I'm gonna be real, like, Primal is garbage. There's a lot of movies like 211, World Trade Center. Yeah. There's a lot of garbage, but he also does a lot of good roles, and he gets a lot of praise for those good roles. And I think he's really starting to realize how important these good roles are. I think he's become more self-aware about his his figure in the pop culture. So maybe there'll be a renaissance, which they refer to a lot. Like, I'll be back. Not that I ever left.
Yeah, not that I ever went anywhere. There's a scene that was so shocking to me that I had no idea what to even think about it when it happened, as it was happening. Where, so basically the premise of the movie, maybe we should backtrack a little bit, is he is taking this appearance job where he's showing up at Javi, Pedro Pascal's birthday party.
Yeah, for $1 million.
And, you know, after a day of hanging out with him and all this other stuff, he finds out that he could be the crime boss, like the head of the crime family or whatever. And so he gets recruited by the CIA. Anyway, so he goes to this bar to, like, get drunk at some point, and he has another vision of the younger Nick Cage, the cooler Nick Cage, and, you know, they have their little conversation, and then all of a sudden they both get up and they're both, angry at each other, and then the young Nick Cage grabs the old Nick Cage and kisses him right on the mouth, and then...
And the old Nick Cage grabs the back of his head and fully commits.
Yeah. And he's like, Nick Cage is a good smoocher. Say it out loud.
That was really funny. The
funny.
tutor was losing it, but there was more scenes that got filmed. I think there's a fighting scene where he fights old characters, but that got cut. And that just gives you a reason to buy the DVD when it comes out, because it's going to be an extra.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. I'm very excited.
I really liked how this was written, and I kind of like to believe that the director/writer, I think he had help writing it, but...
It was like 3 people that wrote it.
Yeah, but I kind of like to believe that this was the director's fan fiction, and he got to live it out. He literally got to live out his little fan fiction, that he got to meet Nick Cage and I think have a movie with him. Because I think he had been pestering Nick Cage for a while about this movie.
Trying to convince him why this is a good script.
Yeah. And Nick Cage was kind of like, I don't know. And I can see why this... He has himself admitted that this was a hard role to film, and it took a lot out of him.
Yeah, it would. I mean, it would take a lot out of anyone to play yourself in a negative light, kind of. Like, it's not super negative light. He's not a loser or, like, weak or ugly or whatever, but it's still like you're playing yourself and you're this desperate has-been that needs to do these things. And then you get involved with the CIA. Which, that scene kind of lost me for a bit. I thought the movie was going to suck now. Because, it's a CIA spy plot. But that's kind of the meta of it.
Yeah.
Where he, like, mentions that...
They have to have some type of action
it can't
for
just
the whole family.
It can't just be a talkie comedy where people talk and make jokes. It has to have more than that.
Yeah, which I think is kind of the same thing with adaptation. You know how they're kind of like... I mean, you can hear us talk about that movie on Nico's channel, but I'll kind of give a brief explanation as why I kind of feel like that. Because in adaptation, he just wants to make a movie about flowers growing, but you can't make a movie that anyone wants to go see without some type of drama or like something. So it is kind of like, we gotta have a plot line that's going to make this interesting for everybody instead of just this niche market that would sit there and just watch 2 guys like bond together.
Yeah. But I think this movie would have worked for a niche market. I think any movie with Nicolas Cage playing himself would have worked at the end of the day, and different crowds would have praised it. But I think this also works for a general movie theater audience. Everyone that was there was having fun, except the guy that fell asleep before the movie started.
Yeah, but he was very old.
He was very old. He was snoring at the preview, so...
Yeah.
He just woke up when people started laughing.
Yeah, I think so. But, besides him, the crowd turnout was pretty good.
It was decent. I mean, it wasn't...
it wasn't crazy, but...
For opening night, it really wasn't crazy. But a lot of movies don't do their biggest on opening night. Everything Everywhere didn't do their best weekend on opening night, so... Maybe... Hopefully, this will make money. We'll get a sequel. I love that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Would really love that. But it is just 2 guys at the core of the movie.
The best parts are the 2 guys.
It's just 2 guys, 2 sensitive guys that are
end up loving each other by the end, being best of friends.
They're besties,
because they love the same movies, including Paddington 2.
Oh man, that was also a really good scene where. It was so unexpected. They're talking about Javi's all-time favorite movies, like 3 top favorite movies.
Yeah, he names Face Off, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and then Paddington 2, and Nick Cage gets really mad. It's like, how do you go from Caligari to Paddington 2? And then he watches it and is like, this is so good.
Which, to be fair, we also did an episode on the Paddingtons, and they're delightful. I love them.
Oh, they're great. They're great family movies. And Nick Cage crying to them is also great. Yeah.
And there's just so many scenes in this that are really funny and they hit. And, like, I don't even consider, like, the I don't know, secondary plot of the kidnappings and the CIA involvement. Like, yeah, that kind of, like, ramps up towards the end.
Yeah. That's the worst part by far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close. That part is the least interesting. It's very cliched, but I think they are playing at the cliche part.
Yeah,
but then
sure.
like turning it on its head as best as they can.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the Nick Cage Museum,
mm-hmm.
which is goals. I need that.
Yeah,
we should build one.
We got it. We got the chainsaw from Mandy, a wax figure of him.
Yeah, the wax figure of him. That's
just really not him. Like,
yeah.
You look, it's really messed up. It's grotesque.
You got a Con Air rabbit. You got a lot of stuff. They mentioned how good Face Off is.
Yeah,
multiple times. And I do like Face Off a lot. So
there was one reference that I was really surprised that they mentioned, and I can't remember what it is at this point. But it
National Treasure?
No, they had a National Treasure poster in the background, and like,
yeah.
I mean, it is a little predictable when, he comes across the basement type thing, which is where the CIA thinks the kidnapped girl is, and so Javi like finds him trying to get in, and Javi's like, when you go down there, your feelings for me might change. And I kind of automatically like knew this was going to be a Nick Cage museum or mausoleum or
yeah. But it was funny. It was like Pedro Pascal was legitimately really funny as a side character, which I guess he's also the main character, but he's like the sidekick that follows Nick Cage around and is just in love with him, thinks he's amazing.
Yeah. He's like he wrote a screenplay, and then, they decide to come up with their own thing, so, I
think the moment I laughed the most was, of course, they were on the boat to the island, and Nick Cage doesn't know he's the millionaire, so he's just talking crap about him, or like crap.
Not really crap, but
he's just scared. Like, is he a killer? Is he gonna make me want to be with his wife or whatever? And says nothing good about him. And then as soon as he leaves, Pedro Pascal's like, he was great. He was so good. I loved him.
He was so kind and amazing.
And then he was taller than I thought. It was just right. And I lost it. That's so funny.
Yeah, because it sounds exactly like something like I feel like you would do in like a joke scenario. It was really funny. It was a great movie. I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah. And,
a
lot of the payoffs, I will say, are very predictable.
Yeah, it's a very predictable movie.
And the directing makes it predictable, too, because, they focus on the gold guns that he uses later, right? There's the camera moves and then it focuses. Yeah,
it focuses on key things, like at the end he stabs the bad guy.
Yeah, and it focuses how he got the knife, like how the knife fell in the car, and they show the knife like 3 times, and you're like, of course he's gonna use the knife in the end. You don't gotta make it that obvious.
Yeah. And, I mean, it paints Nick Cage as, like, this gigantic lover of cinema. Which I think
he is.
I found really nice, because I think people forget that he is kind of from a huge film family. Yeah. And, he grew up purposefully loving film, I believe. And, I think that's, like, something that's fun about this, is it does kind of, the moral of it is, like, you gotta organically find what you love about cinema.
Yeah, because he showed these 100-year-old German expressionist movies to his daughter. She's not gonna like him. Even I'm, like, just okay with The Cabinet of the Caligari.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
It's fun, but it's not, like...
Yeah, I don't think...
I feel like I've seen so much more...
Yeah, it's mostly the screenplay, because, like, the painted sets, those are great, and the makeup, great, but, like, for a teenage girl that doesn't care about movies in general, and her favorite movie is Paddington 2, that's a different crowd. And you can love both films, but a lot of people are not going to be that deep, and I think that's also kind of a message that he's putting out, where... his biggest roles aren't that deep. Most people will now remember him from Mandy or Adaptation. They'll remember him from Con Air, Face Off.
National Treasure.
Yeah, these big action movies with a lot of money behind them. The Rock, like they mentioned that a couple times too. So, The Croods too.
Yeah, like the Croods series, the things that kids will probably grow up on. Some of these younger kids.
Yeah, so he has his Paddington 2s, which is people hold him dearly for Face Off and The Rock. And then he has
his diehards.
His diehards that love the camera like Caligari and love Mandy and love Color Out of Space and all of this good Nicolas Cage stuff that's for film lovers. And then he has a lot of crap that we ignore.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies that he is not going to be remembered for, but I feel like with him, it's so weird to see, like, people talk about how many movies he's been in, but, I mean, we had this discussion earlier where Samuel L. Jackson also is in a crap ton of movies.
He's in a lot more movies.
Yeah, and people don't talk about how he's in everything.
Yeah, no one complained that John Wayne did too many movies. Yeah, I mean...
I think maybe it's because the way that Samuel L. Jackson acts versus the way that Nick Cage acts, it's very...
And also Nick Cage is usually the star of these low-budget movies.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson is not... Honestly, he's not much of a leading man. And speaking of this, too, they did a movie together.
Yeah, called Amos and Andrew? Andrew and Amos?
Andrew and Amos, I think. So
Amos.
That one's okay. It's a little on the line if it could be really bad if you take it wrongly. But they did that movie together. And they're both fine in it.
I mean, it's a whatever movie.
Yeah,
like,
they're never going to be remembered for those things.
No.
And I think that's the problem that Nicolas Cage has, that his face is front and center of Primal and Dog Eat Dog.
Oh yeah, Dog Eat Dog. I forgot about that one.
He's always the main character. Samuel L. Jackson is in like all the Marvel movies, I think, and he's like a side character that shows up sometimes. Not that I've actually seen him, but like I think that's it. And he has like the other guys, right, where he and The Rock show up for the first 10 minutes, and that's a whole like acting credit.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot, but if you're not the face of it, people are not going to remember you for those. People are going to consider you a cameo, even though that's how you're paying for your bills.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I think we're going to wrap this kind of up with our final thoughts and our ratings. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. I thought that, you know, it is a little slow in the beginning and it is a little predictable. But it's a really good time, one, and I think they're so self-aware about, you know, what this movie is. Yeah. That I think it kind of makes up for its faults a little bit. So I feel like an 8 out of 10 is where I fall.
Yeah, I gave her an 8 out of 10. Of course, if it wasn't Nicolas Cage or someone else, probably a 6 or a 7, right? Obviously. But that's kind of the point of this film, that it is Nicolas Cage. So,
and he has the unbearable weight of his massive talent, you know.
Which, what a perfect title. Like, you see that title, you know it's a Nicolas Cage movie, because who else was gonna bear that weight? But yeah, I give it an 8, and it's one of the best times you could have in theaters this year, and I would highly recommend it. It's short enough, it's funny, and just really impressive, actually. But Pedro Pascal and the directing was fine, although a little obvious. And the writing was built around Nick Cage, which is exactly what Nick Cage needs to shine.
I agree.
And I have a list on Letterboxd where I rank the hundreds of Nick Cage movies that exist. There's only like 30 on the list so far. And I put this at number 3, so that should say a lot. It's only behind Mandy and Adaptation. It's ahead of Bringing Out the Dead and Face Off and Lord of War, so yeah, really high on the list. Really recommend this.
Yeah, and if you just can't get enough of Nick Cage, we'll be talking about one of his earlier roles, Moonstruck, next week, so definitely stay tuned for that. And we'll see you next time.